Hey y'all, what is up YouTube? How's it going everyone? Sparky Marky Mark here, and I'm back to do a different review. And if you could tell by the title, you know damn well what it is. Or you already know what it is. Who cares? Since right now it's October 30th. Wow, has it gone by. Well anyways, dudes, now we're about to do a review for a certain movie as sort of the third slash seventh installment of a certain franchise that wouldn't die. And what franchise am I talking about? Let's go and check it out, y'all. That's right, folks. It is for Halloween H20, 20 years later. And what you're seeing here is two posters, a scene from the film, and two Funko Pops. But let me show you the poster. This one's a German poster for the film under its different name called Halloween H20 20 Jahre Später. It's a German poster with Jamie Lee Curtis. And here's a shot of the shape with a very large butcher knife. I have an autograph from CSR Collectibles that was done by stuntman actor Chris Durand. And here are the two Funko Pops. This one is the special edition one that it's already going to be selling at Nowhere tomorrow, but I'm not going to Nowhere tomorrow. It's going to be very packed for guest starring Tony Moran. They're going to be screening the original Halloween movie, and it's going to have a Q&A with him. And here is the Hot Topic exclusive of H20. Now, specifically, ladies and germs and hardcore fans and fans of the series, of the Halloween series, if you're hearing this, y'all, if you're gonna get this H20 signed by a stuntman actor that played Michael Myers in this one, let's be clear, folks. This one was played by Chris Durand. He did stunts with former Michael Myers stuntman actor Tom Morga. They both worked in The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and what else did he? He also did stunts for other projects in his career, and also he would later be the minigun villain, the henchman with the minigun in Captain America 2: The Winter Soldier. So yeah, let's be clear, folks. If you're gonna get a Halloween H20 Funko Pop signed, it's gotta be Chris Durand, because Chris Durand did the stunts for the film, and he played Michael Myers, the Shape. That's right, folks, you're looking at him. That's Chris Durand's Michael Myers in 1988. After the success of Scream, they decided to do something serious and make sure it stays true to the original, and making sure it went back to its roots. That's what it did, because Scream goosed up the genre, and this was during the late 90s because it was during the Scream era. And with that, y'all, let's take a look at what we're going to be. Let's take a look at the physical media copies that I have. Not too many, just two. Here it is, folks. This is what you're going to be looking at, and ignore the damn vacuum, of course. Alrighty, let's get to this. Now, H20 and I, we go way, way back. And any of you guys already know H20 stands for water, of course. It's the element of water. But dude, we're talking about Halloween 20 years later. Halloween 20 years later. That's what it stands for. Now, this movie and I, we go way back. Again, I was just a kid. I mean, I was 7 when the film came out, and a buddy of mine was 4 at the time. One of my buddies was turning 3 that year. Another friend was turning 5. A buddy of mine was turning 9 that year as well, and another friend was about 9. Another friend as well was turning 9, and another friend was turning 8 at the time. And some of my buddies, one of my homegirls was 20 at the time when this movie came out. She was born the year the first Halloween was released. Coincidence, she was the same age as Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. And, what the hell. Let's get to it, y'all. Let's take a look. But also, you're looking at two copies. One is part of the Dimension Films Collector Series widescreen edition, This one is from the Screen Factory 15 disc set, and yo, this set is very hard to find. The big box that comes with 15 discs, special features, some carry from the previous editions that we've gotten over the last many years. And now Screen Factory recently released the first, the first 4 Halloweens, including Halloween Season of the Witch, which, of course, under its different name, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Again, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is a standalone movie, not as part of the franchise. Let's be clear on that, but it's a good Halloween movie, but for a standalone. And also, those got the 4K treatments, along with the Blu-rays that have the 4K scan in it as well. So I'm definitely triple dipping on those pretty soon as I can. And also, Screen Factory, let us know if next year you're planning to release Halloween H20, Halloween Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween Resurrection, to give the 4K treatments they deserve. Please, if you're listening to this, Screen Factory, release Halloween Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween H20, Halloween Resurrection on 4K. Please release that. That they need the 4K treatments. Forget the Rob Zombies. I really don't like the Rob Zombie Halloweens. I'm sorry, but he's a good musician, a film director, too hardcore everything. So yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful. So let's get to this one. Now with this thing from Dimension Films Collectors, I got this as part of the To Hell and Back set that comes with Hellraiser Bloodline, Hellraiser Inferno, and Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, this has bonus materials, Unmasking the Horror, trivia games, and music video. I'll get to the music video in some moment, or at some point of this video. So, Unmasking the Horror is an 18-minute and 60-second interview with Jamie Lee Curtis, director Steve Miner, cinematography Daryl Kananda, if I said his name right. What was the DOP for this movie? I know his name was Daryl. It's somewhere around here. Because they were trying to making sure the feel of the first Halloween. Oh, here it is. Daryl Okada, who worked with Steve Miner in some projects and other things. He also was involved in Phantasm 2. Also, you have Janet Leigh. We know her as Marion Crane from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And who else? Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who this was one of his earlier projects, but in the 90s he did some work. Like he's still as cool as he was back in the 90s. He's still as cool as he is today. And also LL Cool J, being this is his 3rd film or 4th film. But how he did, even in 1995, the year Halloween Curse of Michael Myers was released, he was in the 1995 film called Out of Sync, in which that was his first leading role. But he was in a supporting cast for the film called Toy, starring Robin Williams and Joanne Cusack. That was 1992, and of course, Out of Sync was his first leading role that he did, playing the role of an ex-con DJ trying to get on with his life. So yeah. Now for this movie, and also you have, what else? Kevin Williamson is interviewed, and among other things, she sat down with Kevin Williamson during lunch and talk about to do the 20th anniversary. How would you feel? She's still in the business. She could still get a job. And before all that when happening, she in the interview she said that Laurie Strode was the first character she did, and even though it launched her career, even though she had been successful in other places and areas, she always looked back fondly. And what else? On other things, playing her, you knew who this character was. Also, you have interview with John Carpenter, when he said that he only had one goal when he directed Halloween, and that is to scare and thrill the audience. Mostly scare the audience. And also, Kevin Williamson said he watched Halloween when he was 12 years old, and it was the scariest movie he ever did. And Steve Miner says that one of the first scary movies he saw when he was a kid, as an adult, when he was starting to get into movie business, and it was just Halloween, the original Halloween. And then also you have LL Cool J, talking about that when he was very little, when the original Halloween came out. This was an interview in 1998 when production on H2O was beginning. He said it was like 20 years ago. And very little kid when he saw the original, seeing the female girl getting almost about to get killed. And anything else. And it's going to be like 20 years since she's been in the business for Jamie Lee. And also they talk about, what else do they talk about? And also having back the original actress from Psycho and driving the same car she drove and got buried in Psycho. And what else? Also you have, what's that other actor that played the boyfriend, Jamie Lee's boyfriend? He played by Adam Arkin. That's him. He's a counselor. And also you have Nancy Stevens, who played Marion Chambers. The character of Marion is an homage to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, so it is part of continuing that homage. And also, and what else? She came back to play Marion Chambers, or Mary Reddington, of course, after her and Jamie Lee, after being alive after Halloween 1 and 2. And wow, it's part of continuing the story that it is how it is in that movie. And then she still is iconically known as the smoking nurse, and as well as playing the character where she says there's a completely backstory that she hasn't been successful with. All the history of that one movie came back in that one take, where she's with her boyfriend at the bar, and the character had been taking 12 steps, group therapy, other things, nothing worked. It just comes back in pieces. And then, just a second. Also, with Carpenter saying that with the resolution between the female heroine and the villain, Michael Myers, between the two characters and the structures, there has to be a point in the story where the character Laurie Strode stops running, both emotionally and spiritually and physically, actually stops running and faces him. Was turned and became the stalker, and then she stalked him. And she wanted to have that feeling moment of Sigourney Weaver, sorry. And then you can see that, and when you watch H2O, there's a parallels story, that the issue of the story that the final girl is the brother of the serial killer. And what else? Whew. And then Steve Miner talks about that when he was just a little kid, his mother dragged him to see Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, and he did not want to see the film after the shower scene, so his mom told him to stay outside when the movie was done. Until he didn't see the whole film until he was grown up years later, and then he got interested in getting to the film business after seeing the original Halloween, and that's how he got it. And also the idea, if you guys know the story for Halloween 2, he was in a typewriter with a 6-pack of beer at 2 o'clock in the morning in front of a typewriter to think for the sequel. What is he going to do? God. He'll make the villain her brother. And what he wanted to do, and what Steve Miner, the director, wanted to do from the beginning when he was started to work on the project, was do something that was in spirit of the first film. Do it exactly, and the technique and the execution and so fell is, of course, to do it so well and done. And also you have interview with Kevin Kashian. Kevin, his last name is Kasha, Executive VP, Vice President of Miramax Films. He talks about that Halloween is like the blueprint of horror films in the next 20 years of horror films. And then Carpenter says Halloween is German expressionistic horror film. Not having big money, but they had to use moves, long, slow, wide, tracking shot movements, and also gives it sort of like a melancholian dread, melancholia, whatever you like to call it. And then you also have interview with Wes Craven, the filmmaker of Scream and Last House on the Left and other things he had done. And he was talking about the POV shots in the first Halloween, which remains still to this very day and awesome. Also, you see the shots that you hadn't seen or hadn't seen before. And what else? And also for a good horror movie, it has to be scary. It should scare you 3 times, scare you and scare you. And there has to be a good story, and a good story. And you also have interview with director of photography, Daryl Okada, sorry, that's his name. And then what else? They also talk about the shots and everything. And then for the first time, and also you have composer John Ottman. Composer and future filmmaker John Ottman talks about the score of the film, which also additional music was done by Marco Beltrami. If I can't even pronounce Italian names right, correct me if I'm butchering names. Here it is. John Ottman did the music, but additional music was done by Marco Beltrami, who worked with Dimension Films on other projects like Mimic, Scream, and Scream 2, and now he's in this one. The original score for John Ottman, I'll leave you a link in the description for the Blood Thicker Than Water and this documentary that I'm telling you about for the Unmasking of Horror. And talk about the score. He couldn't imitate the score of John Carpenter, and there was some sort of right stuff going on, whatever it is. And if you hear the John Ottman score, it's on the Blu-ray as well, but I highly doubt it's on this one. It was a bum bum burr. Okay, the shot of the shape chasing the hero down the hall. That was the only score that was done by John Ottman. The rest of it was Marco Beltrami, who did mainly the entire score of the film. And of course, I mean, some people said at Dimension Films felt that the score wasn't doing well. And then even the first score by John Carpenter from the original score will still give you chills. And also you have an interview with Dr. Leo Baraudy, Dr. Leo Braudy, Professor USC, talking about the meaning of horror films. In retrospect, that the vitality of energy of horror is come from those directors that stay within the genre, like names like Tobe Hooper. Hold on. Such film directors like Tobe Hooper, John Carpenter, and Wes Craven. Alfred Hitchcock might be the exception, but people always say that maybe Hitchcock always was indeed a horror director. And as you already heard this word before, Psycho is the grandfather, the granddaddy of horror films. That's where it all started. And it is the genre, though, that it began. And he got knocked back in your seat in the film. And I already mentioned about Steve Miner, about talking about a little bit of Psycho. And also you have interview with the godfather of the Halloweens. You have interview with the godfather of Halloweens, Mustafa Akkad, executive producer. He talks about that in 1978, John Carpenter came to him to do this horror movie about the babysitter and the boogeyman, and he said it in 4 words specifically. It is the babysitter going to be killed by the boogeyman. The word babysitter clicked with him because every kid in America knows what the babysitter is. And what else? And also you have the moving and talking about the gore, the scares, and everything, they kept it on only suspense. They didn't put a lot of gore like the other ones too. The last one did. I mean, and then everybody around the world knows what a guy with a knife looks like. You don't even see it. And what else? Hold on. Horror movies are a little simple. First, you create the characters that are vulnerable, teenage characters, the young characters, to be sympathetic to the audiences that they love and like. Then you create a villain, which is, in this case, the Michael Myers villain. And then also, they had to do approval, they had to do like suspense, they had to build a lot of things building up to a suspense story. How is it pulling off? How is this? How is that? And anything that I miss. Um, they also they have humor in it. That's the main thing. And Scream was inspired, and also the movie Scream was inspired by the original Halloween. And that's when they put some Easter eggs in the first Halloween, thanks to Kevin Williamson. And the villain is very angry when he's chasing the final girl, trying to finish what got started years ago. And then also you will have what else? Hold on a second. And also the president of Miramax talks about the design of the good monsters and slightly less than human, talking about Michael Myers, and has, of course, just enough rational intentions to become dangerous. The thing is about dangerous is to know what it is to be fully bright and know what it is. Then it is a really exciting and dangerous at the same time. And George Hartnett talks about it really kind of appears out of nowhere instead of an actual human that you can try to speak to, but at the end, no remorse, no nothing. And trying to do the stunts and trying to get stabbed by the original villain. And also, talking about the original mask from the first Halloween. They shot this film in 1978, and all that was left was a $1 mask, the William Shatner mask known as the Captain Kirk mask. They bought it for $1, and what they did was they took the facial hairs off, spray painted it white, and made the hair brown. That's the thing. That's what they did. And all that was just the mask. They wanted to use a clown mask, but they felt that he would be better wearing a blank face, how it was written. And it had to be a human image with no expression, no nothing. And it had to be a white faceless image. And then also Mustafa Akkad likes Michael Myers. He thinks Michael Myers has his son. He's his favorite villain. He doesn't want anything happen to him. Because if you blew him up, then how are they going to bring him back? And of course there's the whole point about horror movies is that the villain or unreasonable threat reason does in the end reveal about monsters and villains always are banished until the next story and sequel. And Mustafa Akkad said, obviously there would be 8 and 9. They asked Donald Pleasence before he died, God rest his soul. He says, when are you going to stop? He says, well, I cannot go on. I'll have to stop on 22. So Mustafa Akkad will stick with his advice on that. And that's it. So he'll stick with him on that number. So yeah, folks, that's what there was, folks. Stop on 22. And that's how much it is. And then also for speaking about music videos for H20, hold on a minute. I gotta make sure I'm narrowing down the list for certain music that was indeed in the film. Though they couldn't ask any rappers to do the what is it for the movie. Hold on a minute. From a music, okay, the soundtrack for the film is called Creed, Creed, and it's going to be in the link in the description box down below. And it's called What's This Life For? And yeah, and it is in the end soundtrack of the film. After the score of H2O, after the score is complete, then you have the music by Creed. What's This Life For? I don't know. Alrighty, and I'm talking about, and also trivia games. Heck, we have chapters. That's all you're getting in this DVD. It's pretty cool. No lie there. And now, next up is the Screen Factory. Like, yo, there is super in depth of what you did not know and what you did not know about this movie, of course. And what exactly you don't know anything about this movie at all is what I did not notice about a few things, even though it is mentioned in the Halloween 25 Years of Terror, of course, they talk about that. But also, yeah, this documentary is a two-part, about a 44-minute or 58-minute feature, of course. So yeah, and it's called Blood Thicker Than Water, a 58-minute and 44-second feature interviews with the same some of the same cast and crew, except Steve Miner is on archival interviews. Same thing with LL Cool J and Michelle Williams, because apparently those two have gone to bigger successful careers, working on television and working on other things. And also Steve Miner has been finished talking about it, so you only get what is it, working on other things. And what else, all right. Hold on a second, y'all. So in this new documentary, Blood Thicker Than Water, the making of H2O, so you have interviews with a lot of people in this one, including our cut, and you got vintage interviews, behind the scenes footage. Links will be in those in the description box down below. So Jamie Lee Curtis talks about the original Halloween, how it was extraordinary and successful, and made from no money and no timing. In some way, that was unusual for films to be made, and certain had never been replicated. And she's been in it as long as she's been in the show business for so long. After finishing Halloween 2, she didn't want to do any other horror movies or no opportunities. And she was worried that she wouldn't get that anymore. But she was young enough and felt, and even to this day, she is coined to this day as the Scream Queen. That's what she's known as, Scream Queen. To do something, she actually said it out loud to people: I'm not going to do any more horror movies. And also you have interview with the writer named Robert Sapia, Zappia, and originally it was going to be called Seven, originally going to be direct-to-video, and then suddenly, and then there was involvement. It was going to be direct-to-video, not theatrically. And Richard Potter, of Dimension Films, and had to sell a pitch to do various writings. And originally, believe it or not, the character of Charlie Devereaux's, Adam Heimbaird's character, was going to be an imposter Michael Myers. Like a killer that was obsessed with being Michael Myers, an imposter. Dude, that was a little bit taken out of Friday the 13th Part 5 in the beginning, where you had Jason, but really it was some dude, an ambulance driver, pretending to be a serial killer. That's it. Dude, it was like, they better know they did not do this lesson already, dude. So yeah, they decided never to do that. I'm sorry. So they had to like get rid of that idea, throw it out the window, because again, no more of that. And you also have archival. You also have archival interviews with Mustafa Akkad, because if you guys already know that sadly we lost the godfather of the Halloweens, Mustafa Akkad, who was killed in a terrorist attack and explosion in Jordan along with his daughter. Along with his daughter, and this was in 2005. I was 14 at the time, and I was shocked to find out about it. And since then, his son took over the business, and you have interviews with Malika Akkad in it. And and the idea, and also Malika Akkad is interviewed. He's the president of Trancas International, and then they decided to bring back the whole ingredients of the Halloweens and ignore 4 and 5 and 6, and pick it up where the sixth film left off. And there were like ideas to bring back, to abandon the timeline and storyline, and they ended up at the end of 6 with so many loose ends that really left. They didn't have the appetite or necessarily to continue or resolve it. And so Sapia wrapped his idea, and they wanted to start. They wanted to start something fresh, ignore the Curse of Thorn, ignore the cults, and they had to start everything fresh. And they had a lot of ideas, and bringing back Jamie Lee back. And it was Bob Weinstein that approached her, and she did it out of. And Jamie Lee says she did it out of loyalty for the Deering fans of both horror and Halloween. She did it as a love letter to her fans, and as her way of saying thank you to them for their support. And it's since it was approaching 20 years to the anniversary of the original, and everybody was excited to do it. And of course, so Robert Sapia got a call from the VP, from the VP saying that Bob Weinstein wants to meet with you, and he was excited, and he said good news and we have bad news. And good news, the bad news is they're not using his script, they're throwing it out. And then, okay, what's the good news? Good news is Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back. And of course, it's the 20th anniversary, theatrical release, and the budget got bigger, and everything got completely serious. That's what it did. It got serious. No horseplay, no nothing. And of course, they had to start from casting unknowns and incorporate her to the idea of the story into the all-girls school. But instead of all-girls school, it's supposed to be a different school. Because to have her only child, which is a son, to be in this all-girls school is kind of crazy. They decided to do it a school for both boys and girls. And then not break down. And also they wanted to bring back John Carpenter to come aboard and direct it for the 20th anniversary, but unfortunately when negotiations started to rise, he demanded $10 million to work on the project and come back as a director, but unfortunately that did not go through. So Jamie Lee Curtis thought of one alternative choice: the director of Friday 13 parts 2 and Friday 3, and of course the director of House 1, Steve Miner. That's right, Steve Miner was involved. Plus, and she felt comfortable working with Steve Miner. And also Jamie Lee felt comfortable working with Steve Miner because she did, of course, work with Steve Miner and Elijah Wood, and of course Mel Gibson in the 1992 film Forever Young. Don't get confused with Rod Stewart's music from 1988. Of course, there's a differences between the music and the movie, and it was discussed, and they were all very well aware. He did a great job in films and television, and he has some of that early slasher experiences, and everybody got encouraged by her works and had this vision for the film. And Daryl Okonda, the director of photography, said that both he and Miner worked in projects for some years, and they were going to go. At first, they were going to start working on production for Lake Placid, but by the time they got called for H20, they had to hold that for the time being. It was going to start production, but it got greenlit. When Lake Placid got greenlit, the weather was pretty bad. They had to put that on hold for a moment. And in the meantime, Jamie Lee had contacted Steve because they had worked together on Forever Young. He was familiar with Halloween, that it came out around the time he was working on on horror films called Phantasm in 1979. Will be released in 1979, and he says he wasn't crazy about sequels, but the idea was to pick up where some of the John Carpenter vibe and then too. An editor, and you have an interview with editor Patrick Lussier, and then and working on other projects and for Dimension Films. Coming to H20, it was a certain expectation that it was going to be very, very hard than it was going to be, which of course it was and it wasn't, and had all the certain films that edited, which became great, and had an opening that remains set from that it wasn't going to be used, the nurse, Loomis's nurse. But what the hell? I already mentioned this script to you. I'll leave you the documentary link in the description box down below. And of course, you have interview with voice actor Tom Kane, who will later be playing Professor Utonium that same year in The Power Girls in 1998. He talks about he had to imitate Donald Pleasance's voice, the Dr. Loomis voice, during the speech. They only could find this; they couldn't use the other speech because it had all the score in it, and he had to imitate. And it must have been the 50th take. And he says, "Yes, yes, that's Donald Pleasance." Since it's very ashamed that Donald Pleasance will be sadly missed from the movie, you do see pictures of Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance, in the film, and yeah, very sadly, it's been 3 years since they've lost Donald Pleasance, and of course, they want to do this special, and he will be sadly missed from the series. So, that's how they had to start in using Tom Kane's voice for the Dr. Loomis speech in the opening of the film. After 50 takes, they picked the 50th take. And then, what else? You have Josh Hartnett talking about his very early work. And there were two projects he was working. One was this, which was H20, and another one called The Faculty, which would be directed by Robert Rodriguez, but the Faculty will be released in December, Christmas of 1998. And it was around the time my two buddies, one was turning 3 that year, the other one was turning 5 that year. So yeah, and another buddy was turning 8 that year. So whoop-de-doo. And also, Adam Hyber was very hyperactive to be really awesome and cool, working with Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah, behind the scenes and rehearsal scenes, doing the colliding with the characters and everything. Doing rehearsing was very hard and easy at the same time. And then Joey Lynn O'Keefe was very gladly to work. And of course, seeing that mask was very, very scary and frightening of the villain. And also you have archival interview with LL Cool J, interviewed in 1998, talking about his character, about a guy trying to write a romantic thriller, talking to his wife. Ack loves her a lot, trying to do something so he can have time to write his story. And of course, the cast talk about LL Cool J. I mean, oh my God, is that? And he referred to, and of course, Charlie Heimbert talks about that. That he refers to the name of Todd. He doesn't like to be called LL Cool J because if other people found out about him, then everyone is going to come after him. And of course, he was the audience that day when Joey Lynn O'Keefe becomes killed by the Shape. And yeah, and also you have interviews with the stunt coordinator and Jamie Lee stunt double Donna Keegan, talking about they needed a right actor or actress. A right actor, a stuntman actor, to play the Shape, Michael Myers. Now, who they should hire? Until they picked the right stuntman actor named Chris Durand. Everyone called him Shapey on set, and it's Chris Durand. And he had to be very qualified for the character. Just a second, folks. And so Chris Durand was called for an interview to meet with the director in the studio to do auditioning for stunts. It was pretty weird, and then and he had to be really understanding with his character very hard, and tremendously to his benefit because he wasn't nervous. He didn't read into it too hard. He had to have this discover the character for himself, which is where it's official not to mimic the other ones. And it wasn't until 2 weeks into shooting, people were coming to Chris on the street, asking him for autographs from doctors, lawyers, and housewives and kids. And this was a big deal because this is Michael Myers. And Adam Hyber says that underneath that mask, he had a big smile because every time they yell cut, he takes off his mask and he had that smile on his face. And then it's hard that this lovable guy is playing the villain, and has to be the villain. But he was just this really nice stuntman actor. He had to learn how to stalk correctly, move, slash, and act like a psycho. And so Chris decided he had to be playing not like a gentle, but a big cat tiger. You've seen a big cat, a tiger, a lion, when they lock on prey. That's what he did. He locked on prey. And they had to lock on, he had to be acting like a big cat, a big tiger. And so he has to lock on his target, specifically who he's coming after. And then, of course, came controversy with his second. And he had to be scary and frightening, but everyone loved him. And the next thing, of course, came another controversy, which I did mention about the score by a future filmmaker who would later direct Urban Legend 2, The Final Cut. Talking about the score, that it had the bum bum bum, and they only used that scene that I already mentioned to you. That was in this set. And then Marco Beltrami did the score for the rest. And you have archival interview with Mustafa Akkad in 1998, back when he was alive. And Mustafa Akkad said that he's lucky to be the protector of the franchise because to me, Michael Myers, I love this villain. Everybody hates him. I love him because he has a son. And he keeps protecting him on and on until I don't know when. Till I die. And also, the writer Robert Sapia says meeting Mustafa Akkad for the first time was incredibly and great. When you walk into his office, he's like stepped out right of old Hollywood. And he's sitting on his big, high leather chair. He's got the tweed sport coat with the patches and everything, and his lead cherry pipe. Definitely he walked out of the 1930s Hollywood. And he had that nice smile and everything. He was always very supportive of the ideas that he came up with, very protective of Michael. And then there was another funny scene on set that when the character of LL Cool J gets shot, when Michael picks up the gun, Mustafa Akkad said, "No gun, no gun," he says. And when he was on top of the table and he takes out the gun out of his back part, he does that. And he was like, everybody was dead silent and gasped. And then at the end, Mustafa says, you got me, you got me. And everybody started laughing out loud. Oh, man. And then, of course, the second controversy would be the mask. Now, there were a lot of complaints about the mask in each film. So what they did, they had to hire like a few artists. They had to line them up with the mask and ask the stuntman actor, Chris Durand, to put on each one to satisfy both the studio, the director, and Mustafa Akkad to know exactly which mask to choose. So they hired John Carl Buechler, Magical Media Industries, with special effects artist to do the mask. They had to take directly from the H6 mask. So they did. take off. They had to get it from the H6 mold. They had to design, lengthen the neck, a little shorten the hair, a lot of things, and they had to pick each one with photos with different lightings, basically deciding which mask to use that came before or how to combining. And also you have Brad Hardin, special effects makeup artist, talking about the mask, sculpting and creating for every movie. Unless you're talking about the second film, which is Halloween 2, they actually used the first mask on stuntman actor coordinator Dick Warlock, who has a roundish face, much rounder face, and it just looks so different. Initially, when they shot the film, when they shot the film, they used the KMB mask, which is AKA the Casper Mask, which I have an autograph of it. Hold on a second. I'm going to show it to you. Here it is. This is the mask that Chris Durand wore in the film throughout principal filming of H2O. This was alright. The design, everybody was pleased. Everybody was happy with. And at the end of production, they didn't like the way the mask looked. So that's when they contacted John Carl Buechler and his company, Magical Media Industries, with Brad Hardin to design the mask directly from the H6 mold. So they had to pick, like, which design to pick, which is which. And they called this particular mask, of course, is the Casper the Mask. And apparently the original Chandler mask will always remain iconic to this very day. Who knows about it? And then they were about 3 weeks into shooting with the mask. And then, of course, they got the phone call on set that they couldn't use that mask anymore. The concession to H2O is exactly what the mask should look like. And they shot a lot of it with the KMB mask. And it was rejected by the Weinsteins at Dimension. Which is exactly what occurred in Scream. If you recall the opening of Scream 1, you can tell by the Ghostface mask that it looked different within every shot. Of course, one is the design by the KMB company, the other one from the Fun World mask, and it was different. You could tell that the mask did change throughout the film. And with the KMB mask that was designed, it looked so comical, less frightening, whatever it was. And that's when they contacted, it was very cool, not back on. And he didn't like, and of course Mustafa didn't like the take. So Buechler and Hartnett to design a few masks from the H6 mold by John Carl Buechler. And there was a large brouhaha. They were shooting the interior sequence at the beginning of the film, where Michael kills the nurse, and the director was very surprised to be there, that the mask was not liked, and the director, Steve, was furious. He's caught in Chris Durand is caught in the middle to be the dude wearing the mask, and there were arguments going on, and Brad Hardin says that Steve Miner wanted the mask to be like the first Halloween mask, which was a blank face with no expressions, no features. That's what he wanted, and he told KMB, and it had to be washed out, and it had to be a blank slate. So Hardin tried to paint on them in a way and lengthen the neck and everything with. And then, of course, they shot it again with the KMB mask by Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger mask. And then, of course, the H6 mask from Magical Media Industries. And, hold on. Sorry, folks. I'm alright. Sorry about that, folks. So, in the next shot, first time you see Michael in the movie, the beginning of the film, you only see the H6 mask and H2O, which is the 6 mask from Halloween 6 and H2O. And so what they did was they hired Stan Winston and his crew to create a sculpt of Michael's mask and created a CGI mask. But if you watch H2O, keep in mind, y'all, in most of those shots, he's wearing the CGI mask cost about $2 million. They had to reshoot some things, making the editor very hard to pick a lot of shots. And one shot of the film, which was a set for close-ups that cannot be filmed again, is where you see Michael's mask in a cartoon CGI floating look. But yeah, if you watch Ichiro, keep in mind that in most of those shots he's wearing this mask is what he's wearing. That's what he's wearing. But remember, it's not like one company, one makeup effects company got hired and fired. Not like, it wasn't like Cam B was hired and then fired, then John Carl Buechler, Magical Media Industries was hired and then fired, and then Stan Winston's company was hired and then fired. No, that did not happen. It was like the mask took a life of its own. So yeah, that's what it did. And then and of course, if you see in the documentary, you are going to be seeing different masks in the film. That would rather be a Buechler, a H6 mask, a Cam B mask, a Stan Winston mask, and a CGI cartoon float mask. And that's showbiz, y'all. And then, hold on, folks. Something came up. Never mind that, folks. Sorry about that. And also, the actress was actually bleeding, Joni Little Keith, when she gets killed. And then also they had to do parallels between the first two movies. And of course, that's when you have the toughness with Jamie Lee. And they had to get a lot of shots done before the sun came right up. And they put inside jokes and Easter eggs in the movie. And the fans know that they appreciate. And of course, they're having Screen 2 playing on the background. And that's Chris Durand and the Ghostface mask, which some people did know or didn't know. And it's a super in-depth documentary. And then also, when they were trying to rescore the film and a lot of other things, they had to, and originally in the end of the movie, Michael was supposed to be killed off, but he was supposed to talk to Laurie Strode. Really? He was supposed to talk? But they decided not to, and also cut his head, and then the series was done. But unfortunately, there was something hidden that people didn't know or didn't know. Chris Durand said that in 25 Years of Terror, and there was something in the script that wasn't used, that there was going to be a bus, and there was going to be a fight in the bus, and then a helicopter, and then Michael was going to be trapped inside this bus, and she gets rescued. And then the villain blows up. And the bus was teetering off a cliff. And then, yeah, but they never... A second. And they were trying to play the audience for a sequel for that ending. And then of course there was a little surprise ending. And then anything more? Oh, so and there was a bit of a hitting with the Weinsteins at Mustafa's request of a cross of the shape walking to the gates. And it was always thought of the shape posing as a paramedic, and that wasn't even the real ending for the movie. No, and they sort of pretend that doesn't exist. And also they had to rescore while Steve Miner was prepping for Lake Placid, and also they had to know the works of Dean Cundey, which was done by Daryl Okada. They had to know everything about it, and the film became a success afterwards. And for Halloween Resurrection, okay, Donna Keegan says that her son, apparently they couldn't bring Chris Durand. Apparently, Chris Durand did not come back for Halloween Resurrection, but the stunt coordinator, Donna Keegan, got hired for the movie, but she couldn't bring Chris back because, unfortunately, he's American. They needed Canadian stuntman actors or stunt actresses. And their rule is mostly Canadian crew, only if you have to be. And it was very difficult, yes, to do at best. And going to Halloween Resurrection was different movement and everything. Yes, they were writing off the success of H2O, and then it was a bit collectively started trying to imitate a lot of things. There was more original. They were going to the found footage internet age and getting caught up, getting the stunt casting. And they had Ella Kuja in the last one and get Busta Rhymes. And then Donna Keegan's son, Gary J. Clayton, he played Michael Myers at age 6. And then unfortunately, somehow the film wound up getting cut 4 times and never made it to the finished product. And they were just trying to create all the success of H2O. They want to do Resurrection. What the hell? And the last footage, and the last of this documentary, you have archival with Jamie Lee in 1988 saying that her next project is to get out of show business. She's returning after that. Not. But anyways, y'all, what do you guys think of H2O? It's a very cool film, yes. Releasing in 1988, yes. Hell yeah. And I want to meet Chris Durand. I already got a Scream 2 autograph. I got an H2O autograph. And what else? I want to take a picture with him. I want him to sign my copy of the movie, maybe these two, and ask him a question. And yeah, and also, if I already told you this or not, Chris Durand would be later playing a henchman with a minigun in Captain America 2: The Winter Soldier. Tell me, what do you guys think? I mean, I already said this to CJ Graham, and I already explained this to Tony Moran. I should tell this to Chris Durand, though, but I'm still going to have to say Doctor Strange is a worthy opponent. And what other slasher could Captain America fight against? Let me know anyway. Well, that's a very joyful, and can't wait for Halloween. That was taken from my Chimpanzee's a monkey. It's Halloween in an animal way. So yeah. But anyways, let's give a shout outs, to that thing of ours. Pizzow, Wet Movie 1, Brandon Mitchell, Cool Duder, Sean C. Phelps. Oof, to the physical media collectors out there and to the fans of horror. So yeah, tomorrow's Halloween. Looking forward and I'm excited. So anyways, this is Sparky Marky Mark signing off. Y'all take care. God bless you. Enjoy Halloween. Spooky's coming. It's coming. Boo!